afternoon, Sergeant Padron. I'm the FO for 3rd Platoon of 138 Bayonet Company. Today we're going to be going over the basics of call for fire. We're going to go over the 6 elements of call for fire, which is the proper format to send up a fire mission to get timely fires and accurate fires on a target. If you take a look at the slide to my left, you'll see references that you can easily access online for the 6 elements of call for fire. And going into the 6 elements of call for fire, we have observer identification is going to be in your first transmission, you're going to have observer identification and your warning order. Your second transmission, you're going to have your target location. Your third transmission, you're going to have target description, method of engagement, and method of fire and control. And we're going to break down each of these sections in this video. Alright, so moving into the first transmission, which is going to be your observer identification and your warning order. Observer identification is going to consist of who you are and who you're calling. So you're able to call which firing unit you want to use at the time. So you can call company mortars or battalion mortars or field artillery. So you would use the correct call sign for whichever firing unit you're going to use. After you give the observer identification, you're going to go into the warning order. This consists of the type of mission that you're going to be using, the size of element for fire for effect, and a method of target location. This also clears the net for the fire mission so that anyone else on the net, stops talking and you can get your fire mission out to get it fired. So an example of what the first transmission would sound like would be Thunder 7, this is Bayonet 9-3, adjust fire, laser, over. So an example of the first transmission would be Thunder 7, this is Bayonet 9-3, adjust fire, polar, over. So at this time we're going to be a check on learning for the first transmission. And the check on learning is what 3 sub-elements comprise the warno in the call for fire. Okay, moving on into the second transmission of the call for fire, we're going to have target location. So within the target location, normally you would give a grid, a altitude, and a direction to the target. If you're using a grid, if you could pull the grid, make sure you include the grid zone identifier and at least a 6-digit grid and a altitude and a direction. With the direction, artillery, we use mils and not degrees because it is more accurate. If you can only pull a degree, you can multiply that by 17 to get the appropriate mils. So for an example of the second transmission would sound something like this. Grid, November Delta, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Altitude, 400. Direction, 3200, over. So at this time we're going to go into a check on learning for the second transmission. And the check on learning is going to be name the 3 items that are required in the second transmission for target location. Alright, at this time we're going to go over the third transmission. The third transmission of a call for fire includes target description, method of engagement, and method of fire control. With target description, you want to be as accurate as you can be with the target description because this gives the gun line the knowledge that they need to give you the proper rounds and fuse types on target to actually destroy the target. So you want to give them what the target is, if you can, vehicle type, personnel, what they're doing. You want to give them the size of the elements, so a platoon, a company, battalion. You want to give them a degree of protection if they're in a tree line, if they're in a trench line, or if they're in a bunker, or if they're in the open. You also want to give them the size and shape, layout of their formation. If they're in an open field and they're in a square shaped formation, you want to make sure you let them know that because that'll judge how they're going to have the rounds land to get the most effective fires on the target. Included in the third transmission along with the target description, you're going to have the method of engagement and method of fire control. This is a more precise way for you to control what rounds you're getting, how the rounds are going to land. We're going to go over this in a later video and break down the methods of engagement and method of fire and control more. So an example of the third transmission would be one company infantry, in the open, square formation, over. So we're going to move into a third check on learning for the third transmission. First, I want you to name all the elements that are required in the third transmission. Second check on learning question for the third transmission. Identify 3 items that are required in the target description.